Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been ignoring their work and or podcasting responsibilities and going snowboarding in Colorado since 2017.
Sounds familiar.
I am not your producer, Rob Diesendorf. He may or may not be doing what we just said right
You
now.
would never do that.
Rather than recording with us here, but I am your co-host, Sean Brady. I'm here with Scott Johnson. And you know us. You know us at this point. We're two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other years, but we decided to come together to help you win your league and make your friends look like idiots. Kind of like how both of us looked with most of our fantasy matchups this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're faring better, you cuties out there. But we're going to get right into it this week. We're going to get into some of the big storylines from Week 14. Essentially, anyone that played against us in a matchup went off. Anyone that we had got hurt and or sucked.
Yep.
And, fantasy football's stupid, but I hope that you all out there fared better than we did. Scott, who went off in Week 14? Let's get into this.
Yeah, so basically we're going to name our opponents, the people that our opponents had. That's what we're doing
The
right
whole
now?
roster.
Yeah, the whole roster.
Yep.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm just glad we're not shirking our responsibilities in our this isn't our job. We do this for fun. We do this for the UQDs, but we're still not shirking our responsibilities in our side hustle, unlike our third
Cough. Rob.
look over here. Who went off? Jameis Winston decided to throw 3 picks.
Fuck that guy.
But also 500. What did he have? 490 yards, five
total touchdowns.
Yeah, that was nice to play against. I'm sure for you. That was also nice for me to bench for Carson Wentz, who as of halftime looks like he forgot how to throw a football. But no big deal. I would have won if I played Winston in one league. It's not a big deal. Let's move on. Drew Brees, on the other end, against the second-best defense, decided to get 40 points. Oof. That's 4-0. That's not 4. Yeah, that's 40. Anyway, Derrick Henry decided to get 25 points. So I was playing against both of them, and that's 65 points right there. I just did the math for you guys. Raheem Mostert took over that backfield. It looks like a good play these next couple of weeks. I don't know where that came from.
Joke. What a joke that is, that I trade for Tevin Coleman and then Raheem Mostert is just sitting there in the waiver wire killing
Probably
it.
still is, too. Don't know how that happened. Robert Woods is not on the waiver wire, but finally figured out and remembered how to play football. That's good. And let's see, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Travis Kelce, no real news there. Yep, exactly. But they went off. Who got hurt? Everyone on our teams, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of avoided people getting hurt on my team, but except for my one bye week team that still lost.
Mike Evans.
Because of Mike Evans. So I think that's the biggest name here, but there's plenty of injuries this week. I mean, it was not – this is kind of like unusual that there was probably, 6 or 7 fantasy starters that got hurt this week. I know you have a bunch of these guys, but Rashad Penny, who we spent a lot of time discussing, only to get hurt. Brutal.
First play of the game.
DJ Chark, Ryan Griffin, and then, guys that, brother of the pod, Connor Brady had too, with Josh Jacobs, Evans, who we already mentioned, Devontae Parker in the concussion protocol, Mark Andrews, who left after 1 catch. Not a pretty week for fantasy injuries.
I feel like this is the most injuries that have happened in the past 4 or 5 weeks. It's just I have a gut feeling, but position player wise, for fantasy purposes, these are so many guys. Mike Evans is on your bye week team. He was on my bye week team too, which kind of is telling there. He can win you a week, and we didn't even need the 13, 14 points he had this week, but he's going to be out for a couple of games. He's definitely going to be shut down for the season at this point. It's only 4 weeks left. Devontae Parker was he might be back, but he was kind of killing it. So really good, productive guys that are getting hurt. This is brutal. Rashad Penny had 45 points the past 2 weeks combined. 1 catch, 16 yards. Looks like an ACL injury. I don't know if it's torn or not, but I think the overall consensus here is just fantasy football stupid. So.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is just arbitrary and random shit happens in this league on the regular. Brutal. But you know what? Not every team's out of it. Not all the UQDs are out of it. Even our teams, we still got some teams in the mix with some bye weeks and some good playoff week 1 teams. So let's get into this next week of games here. The all-important week 15, the semifinals in most leagues.
Most leagues, yep.
Let's get into this. I know you love introing these things, Scott, so I'll hand it over to you.
What do we start with? The Crunchwrap Supreme Games of the Week? Is that it?
It just
I
might
think
be.
that is it.
It just
First
might.
one we got, AFC South matchup here. We were doing some research before, and you found that these teams have not played each other yet, right? Texans at Titans. So they have matchup this week and then week 17?
Yeah, the old sandwich. The old Texans-Titans sandwich. And I think the tiebreaker, based on that, goes to the Texans just because of they beat the Chiefs. And I think that – oh, no, they
Titans
both
beat the Chiefs, too.
Interesting. I'm not even sure how the tiebreaker works out. I think hopefully that the records break that tie because, I mean, both these teams probably should be in the playoffs. Let's be real.
Oh, definitely. I would love to see the Titans and Derrick Henry. Well, you know what? I cannot stand playing against Derrick Henry in fantasy because he's just unbelievable and no one knows how to tackle him. But he's a fun guy to watch if you're not rooting against him.
Yeah.
So the line we got is the Titans -3. Keep in mind, they're 6-1 with Tannehill since he took over as a starter. They are 4-0 and 3-0-1 against the spread at home, I believe, this year. And I'm taking the Titans in this matchup. The Texans are like and down constantly. I can't get a read on them.
No, I'm with you, and I think I'm honestly more impressed with Ryan Tannehill now than I ever have been.
Yeah.
Even when he f's up, like who did they play this past week? I can't even remember. Did they play the Raiders?
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
I think it was like a defensive lineman picked off his pass, and he like ran back and like laid him out.
Did he?
Like, so even when he's like fucking up, he's still impressive. Great form tackle, and honestly, getting up there in the list of guys, if you cloned 22 of them, how good would your NFL team be? Like, he's pretty high on the list.
Definitely high
because he played receiver in college, so
fast,
and he could tackle.
Yep.
I don't know. There's not many guys I would pick over him, to be honest with you, but. With all that being said, give me the Titans here at home. The 3-point line essentially says like these teams are dead even right now, and you get 3 points for being at home. It seems like that's where Vegas goes. I honestly think the Titans are better than the Texans right now. The Texans just put up a stinker. They just put up a stinker this past week.
And the Ravens
getting a lot of respect. I mean, I love Deshaun, but the Titans are just the unstoppable force right now.
Would you rather have Ryan Tannehill to start your franchise or Carson Wentz?
Wentz, just because of the age, and I think his ceiling is a lot higher. But Tannehill is, he's solid. Like he's an average starter, I would say.
I think he's like top 15, but probably 10 to 15 range as a starter. He looks really good though. I'm trying to name like
he's a pro.
10 guys I would have before him. I guess I could find it, but to start my franchise, he'd probably crack the top 10 because he's still like 30. He's like 29 or 30, isn't he?
Yeah, I know he's not that old, and we haven't really seen him in like a conducive situation because he was in Miami for so long. So I get that. I totally agree, and he's playing some great football right now. I'm sure he'll get paid this offseason, probably by the Titans.
By them, yeah.
Which I think is a good fit. I kind of like that kind of whole marriage right there. I think that works. Love it. Give me the Titans, and let's keep moving into these next games of the week here. Crunch wraps.
Viking. Yeah. What do we got? Vikings at Chargers. So the early line is Vikings -3. The Vikings, when they go out west, they're past 10 games in Pacific time zone. They're 2-8 straight up, 4-6 against the spread. Remember the Packers, when they went to the Chargers earlier this year, put up a stinker out west. So tough place to play. What do we? Let's talk a little bit about fantasy first. Dalvin Cook 2 weeks ago got hurt. Looks like a chest injury though. And it doesn't look as serious as we initially thought. Alexander Madison, you still have to own him, but you're playing Dalvin Cook regardless, right?
Yeah, you have to. You have to, and you're playing Stephon Diggs. And on the other side, you're playing we say play your studs, and Austin Eckler is a stud. And I really hope people realize that coming into the week. I hope you did. Like when we say a guy's a stud this year, we're going off of what they've shown us. For example, the game we just talked about, A.J. Brown I think he's a start this week.
Yeah, definitely.
So, if a guy is showing you I'm a stud this year, you play him. And Austin Eckler is a top 10 running back this year, play him. Plain and simple.
100%. Adam Thielen's still out. Stephon Diggs is going to get some good work here. Next one we got. I'm going to take the I'm going to take the Vikings. I think they're going to beat the Chargers.
Yeah, like all those stats you said kind of led me to think the Chargers, but the Vikings are just a better team right now.
100%. Rams at Cowboys is the next one. Rams just beat the Seahawks, and I did not see that coming.
I did. I called
You did?
it.
There you go.
I think I called it last week.
I don't remember. I never remember what we say. Goff looked good in the beginning of the game, and he threw 2 picks towards the end. I didn't really watch this game because as soon as Rashad Penny got hurt, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to watch this game.
Yeah, that was a good decision. A business move by you.
Business move. But Robert Woods looks like he's back. This is a good matchup for him. Cowboys are favored by -3. They're still, as of Monday night at halftime of the Giants-Eagles game, in the driver's seat for the NFC East. But it's getting, if the Eagles win that game, which we're recording this on a Monday night, then it's looking close. But what are you thinking of this one?
Look, I'm going to take you back here to simpler times. Remember when we first fell in love with Bobby Woods like 2 years ago? And we kept saying, I kept saying this every week. I kept saying he is the straw that stirs the drink for that offense. And it is not more. It was super true then. It is just as true now. He's played exceptionally well the past 3 weeks, and they've looked like a totally different team than earlier in the year. I think they beat the pants off the Cowboys this week.
I like that.
In their own house. I think McVay has made some great adjustments, and he doesn't get enough credit. He got a lot of hate earlier in the year. I think he's done a great job this past couple of weeks. Give me the Rams all day.
I'm going to take the Rams as well. I think they're not really going out east, right? They're going to the Central Time Zone. So it's not as bad. They're 6-1 straight up in December road games under Sean McVay too. Little nugget for you.
Todd Gurley he's back.
He does look good. Yeah, I don't know if it's a facade because he's had some flashes this year and he's still really hurt. Like his knees are just not good. So I just don't know if it's for real or not.
True.
I guess it is.
Shout out to you, Todd, by the way, posting that like ridiculous stiff arm of Flowers like from 7 different angles on his Instagram today.
Check it out.
What a move. What a power move.
Check it out. Next section we got Doritos Locos Tacos, properly hyped but missing some clout. Falcons at 49ers. So Falcons just beat the snot out of the Panthers 40-20, I think.
Yeah.
49ers and Saints, one of the best games I've seen this year, if not the best game. That was amazing.
Totally agree. I could not agree more, and I don't think the Falcons are anywhere near that class of the Saints, but I think they could mix it up with the 49ers enough to make this interesting. Give me the 49ers, especially at home. Like, one of these weeks they're going to lose, but I just don't see it this week against the Falcons.
Yeah, 49ers are favored by 11 points, which is honestly really tough. This is a kind of a revenge game. Well, I guess not a revenge game, but Kyle Shanahan used to be the Falcons' offensive coordinator.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
So we'll see how Matt Ryan does against the – well, you know what? If Drew Brees can put up 40 points against the second-best offense, then maybe Matt Ryan can. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? Let's see. The 49ers are 8-4-1 against the spread, second-best mark in the NFL. -11 is a pretty tough one, but the Falcons are going out west. I don't know. Past 5 games when they've been favored by 10 or more, the 49ers have gone 4-1 straight up, but 0-4-1 against the spread.
Did you see George Kittle this past
Yeah. Yep. He's a beast.
Could you possibly pick against them after seeing that? It's just not
That's
happening.
true.
Give me all the stats you want. Give me all the stats you got. I'll throw them in the garbage because they got George Kittle on the 49ers.
Yeah.
Fantasy-wise,
You swung me.
Fantasy-wise, I think you got to play like every piece of this game, including Mostert and Devontae Freeman. I think they're both probably starts this week.
Yeah, Freeman gives me a little pause. Carolina Panthers were 32nd against running backs going into last week. 49ers are top 5, but I think you do have to kind of play him as a flex and hope for the best. Next matchup, Bills at Steelers. This is flex to Sunday night, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Great game.
Yeah.
Low-key, like, would never have thought this in this iteration coming into the year with Duck versus Allen.
I love it.
It honestly is so fun, and I think the Steelers still have that playoff hope alive, and the Bills are probably locked into that first wild card spot. So this is going to be a really fun game. I think you're playing guys like Singletary, who is low-key a stud right now. Like, definitely a locked-in running back, too, moving forward. Give me every piece. The only thing I would kind of hesitate on is the Bills' pass catchers, because John Brown's been a little hit or miss lately. The Steelers side, I don't even know if you're playing anyone, to be honest with you. Offensively, maybe, like, the young wide receivers if you need a shot in the dark flex, but it's not the time for that right now. So I think you play your regulars on the Bills, but this game in an NFL sense is going to be so fun.
Yeah, I agree. Steelers are favored by 1.5. since 2000, the Steelers are 6-0 straight up and 5-1 against the spread against Buffalo. I'm going to take the Steelers in this one, actually. I think the Buffalo Bills are a little overrated as an elite team, and they've shown it. They have 9 wins against one of the worst schedules, so I'll take the Steelers, actually, to shake things up in the AFC.
You know how I feel about those Bills, though. They had a moment this past week where I think they were in the red zone, down a touchdown in Baltimore, and they just didn't quite have it. But Josh Allen didn't play well, and they still were in that game. I just think the Bills are such a well-coached team. Not that the Steelers aren't, by the way. I'm excited about this game. Give me the Bills, though. I'm going to ride that train until it really throws me off.
I like it. Bears at Packers, next NFC North matchup we got here. What do we think of the Packers and the run game? Because Aaron Jones has been the epitome of up and down all year. Jamal Williams didn't do much. What do we think of them this week, though, against the Bears? A pretty tough, stout run defense.
I mean, I think it's a situation where you got to play Jones if you have him. You got to sit Williams if you have him, just because the ceiling for Williams is not nearly
it's like 10
high
points.
enough. Yeah, it's not nearly high enough for the risk. You could do better in your flex, and Jones, the ceiling is too high to not play, even against this really good Bears defense.
Yeah. Bears showed the Cowboys up last Thursday, so they have some time to kind of prep for this, but they're going at the Packers. It's a tough one. Packers are favored by -5 right now. I think they're gonna cover this, and I think they're gonna beat the Bears by at least a touchdown. Next segment of matchups: spicy potato taco, light but sneaky good. Bucs at Lions. You want to talk about your beloved Jameis Winston?
Oh God, just I'm playing against him in the Money League, the Hoboken League, and I turned on Red Zone. It was what was it, before 107? He's throwing a pick. It might have been a pick six, actually.
He was 0 of 1 with 1 interception to start the game.
Yeah, but it was and that happened before we even reached the 110 mark on the actual physical world clock, 10 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Into the game start, 5 minutes into the game starting.
Yeah.
And he's throwing the ball to the other team, and he's still. So I'm thinking I'm good. This is gonna be one of these Jameis games, and then he comes out and drops 500 yards passing. I think it was 4 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. I'm just you gotta be fucking
with 2
kidding
more
me.
picks though.
With exactly with 3 picks, and with Mike Evans out, he is just undeniable. He is just a fascinating specimen of a football player because you never know what you're gonna get. I do think, even without Evans, I think they mercilessly just dispatch of this Lions team because the Lions are just not very good.
I agree. And if you could pick up the Bucs defense, honestly, I would do it. It's
hell yeah, Todd Bowles.
Yep, exactly. Todd Bowles, David Blau, kind of figured it out by now. Chris Godwin is a top 3 play now without Mike Evans. Yep. Darius Slay has not been as good of a cornerback as he has in previous years. The line right now is Buccaneers -4. I'm going to take that. I think that's pretty simple, cut and dry. Next one, we got Colts at Saints, which I cannot tell what the Colts are. They're 6-7 now. Jacoby Brissett has not looked that good in the past 3 weeks. I think he still might be really hurt. But we got the Saints -8. I want to talk about Alvin Kamara, though, because he has not lived up to the hype as a top 3 consensus pick.
Yeah, he killed me. He killed me this
And
week.
he doesn't look as good as Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray is a surefire, tough running back. Alvin Kamara does not look good this year.
I think they rushed him back from that injury. I think it really affects him. And just throwing this out there, Zeke also doesn't look like himself. He's been pretty good. He's been definitely better than Kamara down the stretch. But
either just David Johnson.
And I think it's a situation where even if you are super talented, let's look at Saquon for example as well. If you're the most talented running back in the league, if you're forced to play banged up, you're not going to be as effective. It doesn't matter. It's not like wide receiver where you can kind of play hurt and still do your thing. You're going to take so much punishment as a running back. It's a much less forgiving position. So it's one of those spots where it's when you invest in a running back with a high pick, you better get lucky and they better stay healthy because this is what I'm worried about with Dalvin Cook. I know he can play through it, but what if he starts to not look like himself?
Yep.
Then all of a sudden the only sure thing is McCaffrey and Derrick Henry,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. What are we doing about Jared Cook? He got hurt in this game. I don't know what his availability is for Week 15, but he had 2 touchdowns.
Oh, God. I mean, he's sitting on my bench because I have Kittle in one league. But,
yeah, you're good there. And
but if you're in a position where you're starting him, I don't think that not Taysom Hill, the other Hill on the Saints is worth a pickup. I just don't think that Breeze will look his way enough. Josh Hill, that's it. Yeah, I would say go get yourself a guy like Ryan Griffin if he plays this week. Or
Jack Doyle.
I know he got banged up as well. Doyle maybe if you want. Yeah, it's tough. But at the end of the day, like you're just hoping for a touchdown anyway. If you're going for a guy that's below that Jared Cook line, he's probably right where the cutoff is. So, yeah, go for it. Maybe take a shot in the dart on a guy like Noah Fant.
Yeah.
But it's not pretty at the bottom of the tight end pile. So if your tight end is hurt like Jared Cook is right now, then you gotta just kind of throw a dart, say a prayer, hope you get a touchdown.
Yep. And to go to the non-overthinking thing, I learned my lesson here. Marlon Mack came back. Thought that was way too early for him to come back, but he scored a touchdown against a Bucs team that had only let up 3 all year, and I learned my lesson. Played Rashad Penny over him. That was just a freak accident. I think it was still the right play, technically. Because the Bucs,
yeah, it definitely was.
What?
It definitely was the right play because
sucks.
You never the worst case is you put Mack in there, and then he has a situation like David Johnson had that week where Chase Edmonds dominated the touches. Like that's what I envisioned for Mack going on there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it shouldn't be a situation like that this week then.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think the Saints are also barring last week notwithstanding, the Saints are a tough matchup here.
Yeah.
But you got to play Mack.
Yeah.
If you have him, you got to play him. As far as this game goes, the Saints are just firing on all cylinders. I know they lost this past week, but the 49ers are probably the second best team in the league, if not the best team in the league. And the Colts are just so banged up.
Yep.
Like, you got to feel for them, but they don't have the horses to keep up.
It's -8 to the Saints, and I feel like this should be higher for the Saints, to be honest with you. I'm going to take the Saints all day in this one.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Seahawks at Panthers, next matchup. Seahawks are favored by 6. Didn't look that good against the Rams, but, I mean, you're still playing Russell Wilson. You're definitely playing Chris Carson if there's any doubt in your mind now. Rashad Penny's going to be out for a few weeks. Just a tough blow for owners of him. DK Metcalf. What are we doing about Tyler Lockett? Because he's had a rough couple of stretches here rough stretch of a couple games here. 3 targets.
Yeah, it was one of those
2 weeks ago, and then 4 for 43 against the Rams.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those things where the reason he was so lights out early in the year is because he was hyper efficient.
Yeah.
Like Russell Wilson had the highest passer rating. Like I think it was a perfect passer rating targeting him, or it was like way up there. And that kind of number comes back down to earth. Lockett obviously gets a little bit banged up. It's that kind of year where you're just managing injuries as a fantasy owner. You're just saying, okay, who can actually produce at this level while they're hurt? Very few guys are like that Marshawn Lynch category where they were questionable every week of his whole career and then would just show out on Sunday.
Right.
Like not a lot of guys can do that. And Lockett obviously is a smaller guy. He's kind of like that as well. I think you can definitely do a lot worse as a flex. Hopefully he's not like your wide receiver 1.
Right.
But I think you got to play him. I don't think the Panthers are that good on defense. They just fired their coach. Their quarterback throws. Yeah, their quarterback throws the ball to the other team and gives them nice, short field situations. So I don't know. Give me the Seahawks all day in this matchup. But the only reason this game is here and not in the the would you rather no brainer section is because the Seahawks did not look good at all against the Rams.
No, they look out of sorts. Russell Wilson included. Yeah, Seahawks -6. I'm taking the Seahawks all day. DK Metcalf. I mean he is a beast of an athlete, and he still constitutes a flex play to me. I don't know which one I'd rather have honestly this week over either DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, which I thought would be crazy to say in the beginning of the season, but you could go worse with either one of those. Christian McCaffrey is the only one I would think about playing, and DJ Moore on the Panthers side. Greg Olsen got hurt, which sucks, but is what it is. I'm gonna take the Seahawks.
And Curtis Samuel's definitely slowed down a lot. Like he's no longer like a starting flex. He's like a desperation flex at this point.
I think that's partly because Kyle Allen has been so up and down, and he just can't he can't have two receivers like producing for him. He's just not that good of a elite of a quarterback where he has two options that are consistently, doing something for him.
Totally agree. Now, what we're going to do now is move forward, you cuties, to all the games we haven't talked about because you probably have guys on these teams. We don't want to ignore them. So we're going to get into Would You Rather for players in the games or featuring players from the games of the Pats at the Bengals. Oh, God, that's going to be if the Pats aren't pissed off already.
Oh, my God.
They better fucking take care of business here. We got the Dolphins at the Giants. That's going to be a shockingly talented game right there. We have the Broncos at the Chiefs. Kind of low-key, not the worst.
Yeah.
Jags at the Raiders.
Kind of low-key the worst.
Yeah, definitely. But might be fun. The Browns at the Cardinals. A lot of hype on both sides coming into the year for both those guys. Who were the Jets playing? Did I ignore them in this? Did I, write them off? Who's missing here? Let's see.
Let's check. Playing the Ravens.
On
Thursday.
Why.
Oh, it's a Thursday night game. That's why.
That's why. Yeah, it's gonna be a bloodbath.
Yikes.
We just barely snuck by the Dolphins, and probably shouldn't have because there were some bad calls in that game. But the Ravens are a whole nother animal, literally, and yeah. So a lot of these games are one-sided. That's why we didn't really get into them too much. There's a lot of one-sided games even in the games we did discuss this week. But let's get into some of these players, Scout. Let's start with the quarterback position. Would you rather play Tom Brady at the Bengals this week or Baker Mayfield at the Cardinals? Both of these past defenses, by the way, are in the bottom third, if not the bottom
10.
5.
Yeah. Cardinals were 32nd up until 2 weeks ago, and I think the Bengals were 30th. I think I would take Baker Mayfield at the Cardinals, honestly. I think he's going to be pissed off that he did so poorly last week against the Bengals, but recency effect, like Tom Brady has not produced well at all, and last week the Bengals actually did okay against Baker Mayfield, whereas the Cardinals have been a dumpster fire. Give me Baker.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the Odell thing is not looking good.
No.
That's the only thing that gives me pause there. But Jarvis, lights out. I think Jarvis is a locked-in wide receiver 2 moving forward for us.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving. We got Ryan Fitzpatrick at the Giants, or whoever starts for the Giants over the Dolphins, or versus the Dolphins.
Yeah, Eli looks good. It's halftime of the Monday night game as we're recording this, and he has 2 touchdowns to Darius Slayton. So if you're thinking like, oh, do I play Darius Slayton? The answer is yes, you do, as a high-end, like high upside flex. Honestly, I think I would rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, the ceiling is just.
He's like Jameis, right? He could put up like 3 touchdowns and 4 picks and still not be benched for Josh Rosen. Eli,
he is the poor man's Jameis.
Yeah, he kind of is. Yeah, Danny Dimes like always hurt. Eli, yeah, I'll take Fitzy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was gonna say if this is Eli, based on what's going on this week, maybe that's a conversation. But Danny Dimes is not good. You're not playing him. Don't ever play him. Maybe for the rest of his career. Just throwing that. I don't know. He might be the worst. All right, let's keep going.
Fighting words.
Before I throw out too much fire, too much heat out there on Danny Dimes. All right, so Phillip Lindsay at the Chiefs. Phillip Lindsay, low-key, decent year. Or Kenyon Drake versus the Browns. Who are you going with there?
I don't know. I struggle to say Kenyon Drake because ever since the initial game with the Cardinals when they played the 49ers and he had over 150 scrimmage yards, he's really come back down to earth. So I'll actually take Phil Lindsay as more of a steadier, like solid running back 2, high-end flex guy where he's getting 10 to 15 points every week. Kenyon Drake, I don't know, he's had like 4 or 5 points in the past 3 or 4 weeks. So I'll take Lindsay.
Here's my year in review for this week. It's just really quick. I'm going to draft Phillip Lindsay next year because I'm jealous of that low-key production that no one ever talks about. I haven't heard this guy's name mentioned ever on any of the NFL shows or fantasy shows, and this guy is just he's just good. He's a good player.
Also, really quickly, the Chiefs are, I think, 32nd against running backs on the year.
Yeah.
The Raiders are terrible against running backs also, and the Chargers are, in shambles. So he has things change in the offseason and stuff like that, but Lindsay has, a pretty good division that's conducive for solid running back production, in my opinion.
And, Drew Lock might be something. I don't know. That's kind of fun.
Looks really good.
Kind of like that team as a young nucleus there. Let's keep moving, though, to a team that definitely does not have a nice young nucleus, the New England Patriots. Sony Michel, who is just like, he's essentially like, you ever play the game Old Maid when you were a kid?
No.
You never played Old Maid?
I don't think so.
God. So Old Maid is you deal out a deck of cards. I don't want to talk about Sony Michel, so I'll talk about Old Maid. So you deal out a deck of cards. You include one of the jokers. So let's say you have, there's 52 cards. Let's say you have 3 players. Let's say you have 6 players. So what is that, 52? It's like about 9. No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know. Let's say you each have like 8 or 9 cards. One of you has the joker. You have to pick from the person to your right. You have to pick one of their cards every turn. If you get a pair, you put it down until one person is left with the joker. That's the Old Maid. So you don't. Essentially, you want to pass this thing off to the next person.
Got it.
So people do tricks where you like elevate one card in your hand and you like show one and then like you put the Old Maid right next to it so someone thinks it's a whole thing. It's a whole mind game. Sony Michel is the Old Maid this year because I feel like there's probably no one that's been traded more in fantasy football than Sony Michel, including a trade from you to me, which I just totally regret.
Hey man, you got to sell high when you can. 3 touchdowns. Yeah. I think he had 21 rushes for 49 yards and 3 touchdowns in like week 7, and I was like, all right, I'm done. That didn't even feel good getting those 3 touchdowns.
I was like, sign me up. I was like, I went through it last year. I didn't draft him for a reason because I was kind of low-key not pleased with him last year as a rookie, even though he had a decent year. And I still bought it. Totally. And that's honestly what kills Patriots offense right now as a whole. So with all that being said, Scott, would you rather have Sony Michel at the Bengals, great matchup, or LaShawn McCoy versus the Broncos this week?
Man, it's bottom of the barrel. Shady, whatever.
Yeah, I can kind of see him like running wild with like the ball stretched out in his hand,
I hate when he does
protected at all.
So stupid.
It's gonna happen. I could see it. I think I agree. I think I would go with LaShawn McCoy just for the upside. The only thing that gives me pause is like Spencer Ware got re-signed there, and Darwin Thompson is in the mix, so it's just kind of a disaster. But Sony Michel, there may be nothing more maddening than watching him and knowing he's in your lineup. So I totally agree. Just for your own mental health, go McCoy there, even if the ceiling's a little bit lower.
Yeah, and James White is really coming on strong past couple of weeks, and partially because the team has been down. They've had to play catch up. Texans and Chiefs. I'll have the Texans and Chiefs, but yeah, I agree.
Hell yeah. All right, let's go to a couple of interesting wide receivers here. We got D.D. Westbrook at the Raiders or Tyrell Williams versus the Jags. Same game. Which wide receiver are you going with there?
If I had to, I would go D.D. Westbrook just because DJ Chark was a little banged up. His week 15 is in question after being in a walking boot and one of those scooters. And D.D. Westbrook really low upside, to be honest with you. 6 catches for 25 yards against the Chargers. But Tyrell Williams, like I think not that we got fooled by the Raiders, but I think I forgot how horrible they were last year, and then they got to 6-6, and I was like, oh, interesting. Like maybe they're not bad. They're bad. They're a bad team. And Tyrell Williams last 3 weeks, 2 for 18, 1 for 9, 3 for 35. So give me DD.
Yeah, you can't trust it, especially if you're in a PPR. DD might catch 10 passes this week. It might go for 45 yards.
Right.
You got to do what you got to do. All right, let's keep moving. We got Odell Beckham, who honestly should not be in this category. I hope he gets traded somewhere nice this offseason. Him at the Cardinals or Tyler Boyd against the Patriots. Vaunted defense. Who are you going with here?
You got to go Odell for the upside. Tyler Boyd against the number 1 defense versus wide receivers gives me pause. Boyd is in the slot, and Andy Dalton has been much better than Ryan Finley for Boyd. But you got to go Odell. I read something today that Odell should have gotten surgery on his ankle.
Yeah, Baker said that too. Baker told the press.
Baker said that. That's right. Yeah. So now there's he was
Dr. Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Dr. Bake. Now there's he has to apologize and all this stuff. I'm like, oh god. So I'm assuming Odell will get surgery in the offseason, but he probably should have gotten it this past offseason. So he's still hurt, but I'll take Odell in this salivating matchup here, Cardinals.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals' defense is just hapless. They can't contend here.
Right.
Quick side note: who is if you had to have surgery performed by one NFL player, who is your guy? Who do you want doing surgery on you?
Doing my surgery?
Yeah.
Wow. That's an interesting question.
Like I think we agree it would not be Dr. Bake. He'd probably be in the bottom 10 for me.
It definitely would not be him. Wow. Just players
I have an
right
answer,
now.
by the way.
What was that?
I have an answer. I'm waiting for you though.
Oh my god. I would have said Peyton Manning if he was still out there. You know, I'm gonna take Breeze.
That's a good
Drew
one.
Brees. He seems like a smart guy.
That was my answer.
That was your guy?
Holy shit. Yeah, dude.
You wouldn't take Jameis?
100%. Jameis, you're either going to die in the first 5 minutes or you're going to like come out like a superhero. It's like one or the other.
Also, I think he needs contacts. He squints every single game, and I think he said something like, "Oh yeah, I can't really like see as clearly." Or maybe that was part of my take, making a joke, but that doesn't.
Wow, dude! Imagine he gets contacts and he turns into like the goalie
like
from
Peyton Manning
kicking. No, he turns into the goalie from Kicking and Screaming, where he's
Beyond
like
Youngsung,
the greatest.
Oh no, that's not Beyond
Where he's like the greatest athlete ever.
Yeah. Oh my god, maybe that's all he needs. You never know.
All right, let's get a GoFundMe going for that.
I like that.
And I totally agree. Drew Brees would have been an excellent surgeon. Hell yeah. I mean, he carves up defenses on the regular with the scalpel, so it's exactly what
that is a great point.
All right, we got a couple of other spots to get to here. I know I mentioned this guy earlier. Noah Fant at the Chiefs, Scott, or Mike Gesicki at the Giants. Both great matchups. Both really high upside plays. Both with some nice high ceiling quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Which tight end are you going for if you had to this week?
All of a sudden, I'm going to pick Noah Fant at the Chiefs. Gesicki only had one catch against the Jets, which I don't know how that happened. The Jets are 5th against tight ends going into that game, so I could kind of give him that a little bit. But even with a good matchup that Mike Gesicki has, I'll go Noah Fant. He has a higher upside in my opinion, and he has a really good connection with Drew Lock as of now, which is awesome.
Yeah, moving on to the Broncos here. I love this Broncos team right now.
I love Drew Lock.
Obviously,
yeah.
they're just such a. They're not obviously they're out of it at this point, but they're like it's nice to see some optimism there. It definitely is. So I'm excited about that. Give me Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant's a guy I'll probably own a lot next year as well, just because.
Why not?
You know, if I can't get Kittle, I'm not drafting a tight end.
True. Irv Smith, man.
Okay. Yeah, or Irv. Maybe I'll pair Fant and Irv and hope one of them is the guy.
Absolutely.
All right. We got one last would you rather here, and this is something that like a lot of people might actually find themselves debating just because defense is one of those situations where okay, well, actually, let me just get on my soapbox for a second. The teams that suck, the teams that miss the playoffs in fantasy, are the type of teams that have more than one fantasy defense, and the type of team that drafts a fantasy defense too early. So all the good fantasy defenses are, guess what? They're sitting out the fantasy playoffs. So now all the teams that are actually playing in the fantasy playoffs, all these owners out there are scrambling for these like middling defenses that you're just praying for a good matchup. So I've actually never given this take before. I honestly think we should get rid of fantasy defense as part of the equation.
1,000% should. And honestly, I know you love Kittle. I in my opinion, I feel like there needs to be something done about the tight end position too.
So we could just make it like receiver, like be more inclusive so that tight ends and receivers. Yeah, exactly.
That would be fine. You could add fullbacks in there for all I care.
And I think the biggest thing is, at least with tight end, like you could be smart and invest early or pick the right guy like Mark Andrews and this and that. Like fantasy defense is literally random. And on top of that, like I said before, all the teams that spend draft capital in August on fantasy defenses, like the teams that drafted the Bears in the 8th round, like those teams missed the playoffs. And you know who would be a great pickup right now for a team in the playoffs defensively to play this week? The Bears. Obviously they have the Packers, so maybe this week's not the best example, but the fantasy defenses that could be making a difference on the waiver wire right now are sitting as like the 2nd or 3rd defense on that stupid owner that missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're on their bench. So
soapbox, I love it.
Rant over. Fantasy defense sucks, but now that we're here, Scott, and we probably have to make a tough call like this, like I know I did this week. Are you playing the Jags defense at the Raiders or the Raiders defense at the Jags? I think the key here, the takeaway point is you got to look for a game that's going to be a mess and hope you get lucky.
Dude, I don't know. I keep on going back and forth because Derek Carr is leading the league in completion percentage. He doesn't have a ton of picks, but there's such a low upside offense, especially with Jacobs out. But on the other hand, Gardner Minshew had like 4 turnovers one game in London. I don't know if you remember that. And then he got benched for Nick Foles when he came back. So he's susceptible to some turnovers. But in good faith, like saying the Raiders defense, it just sounds like brutal to me. Yeah. I actually think the Raiders defense is a better play this week at home, right? Versus Gardner Minshew, who, again, could be susceptible in the West Coast, flying all the way out there. Max Crosby, Cleveland Farrell, pass catchers, as edge rushers. If I had to, I would probably go Raiders defense, as crazy as it sounds.
I mean, I'm not crazy about picking either of these teams, and I feel like they're simultaneously great plays, but also awful plays.
Yeah.
Don't forget, if Ryan Tannehill wasn't, the best offensive player in the league and wrapping up Mo Hurst on an interception, the Raiders would have had a defensive touchdown against a very good Titans offense this past week. So, John Gruden gets those guys ready to play. I think I would go the other way because I'm more scared of Minshew than I am of Derek Carr. So,
I hear you.
I don't feel great about it, but I think the key here is you pick a game like that's going to be a disaster of a game, and you pick one of those defenses. Right. Like, for example, just throwing this out there, do not recommend this for the faint of heart, but if you pick the Giants or Dolphins defense this week, like, that's the kind of game where you're going to get a special teams touchdown out of that game. That's going to be like a toilet bowl matchup.
100%.
So that could actually really pay off.
I would take the Giants.
It's definitely not recommended, but it could pay off. Just throwing it out.
I think I would take the Giants defense over Jags or Raiders defense too. I have an idea. To your point about getting rid of defense or doing something about it, this would be so fun to like research every week. Why don't we just do special teams? Just the special teams, like yardage, pancake blocks on kickoffs and punt returns. If they get penalties on like kickoffs or punts, like that's -2.
Hell yeah!
Wouldn't that
you
be
include
fun?
The kicker in there?
Yeah, you can put it's like partially about the kicker too, so you have to like research kicker, but if they have a bad kicker, it doesn't matter as much as if they have a bad like punt return team.
You get like punts down inside the 20,
100%,
inside the 10.
Exactly.
Oh my god!
Yeah, because guess what? Special teams isn't going anywhere. As offenses get better and better and better, defenses get more points against, and in fantasy, defenses have not changed one bit. I can't tell you like how crazy it was to see like multiple defenses like the 49ers and Saints this week that got -8 points, -6 points.
Yeah. And those are two of the best 5 defenses in the league.
Right, they're top 5. They're literally top 5, both of them. Come on.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a great idea. Let's call our guys at ESPN.
You got me on my soapbox now. Damn.
Let's call Field. Hey, Field, make this happen for us, my man.
I like that. All in all, though, good luck in week 2. Hopefully you have better luck than us. Hopefully you took our advice, because I feel like every time I give advice, it's better than the advice that I take on my own. Like, if someone was like, oh, Jameis Winston or Carson Wentz, I'd be like, dude, Jameis, he's been slinging it. And then on my team, I'm like, well, Carson has a better matchup, though. And I'm going to lose, so,
Yeah, you get Australian with yourself. You know? You can't do that.
Exactly. All in all, good luck, you cuties. Hope you took our advice. I was going
to say, swing from the hip this week. Just fire from the hip. Don't even aim. Just play your studs. And if you're feeling great about somebody, put them in your lineup. Fuck it.
Who cares?
Who cares?
At this point. And your team should only be guys that you're going to play, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. So, for example, if you're, if you were eliminated in week 10 because you're 2-8, maybe cut one of your 5 defenses. Just
maybe.
Saying. I don't know.
Good idea.
Just
possibly. Or your other kickers.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to end this on a sour note. So we really appreciated all. Actually, a quick shout out. We forgot to mention this on the social here. Quick shout out to all the you cuties out there that either shouted us out on their Spotify top 5s, or send us your playoff rosters and give us quick little snippets of where you're at in your league. We love seeing that. I love seeing that even more than Flex Friday questions, just because my goal for the Flex Friday long term was, okay, I want to show everyone the pattern that I go with. So that's why I add my little commentary there. And I feel like less people need that commentary because they're starting to take it into account. And now we're seeing some teams kill it in the fantasy playoffs because they know how to set their flex. So that warms my heart to see teams out there like John, your boy, going from 10th to 1st.
Yep.
In that little like ESPN chart
Final
that they
standing
do.
projection.
Love that. So you know what?
First
we love
round
you,
bye.
cuties. Keep shouting us out. And we'll stick with you. We'll get you to the promised land.
Shoutouts, John Leckler, Nick Carragini in the Spotify, Andrew Feldman, for all friends of the pod, loyal listeners, you guys are the best.
Hell yeah. And hopefully Rob is not a frozen ice cube like Jack Nicholson at the end of The Shining for next week.
Nice.
And we can have a nice introduction and a nice produced podcast and all that stuff. But
yeah, hey Rob,
thanks for bearing with us this week, and we will be back heading into the fantasy championships for most leagues next week. Wow, I just got a little bit excited about this. Am I back? Am I back?
I'm not. Yeah, it makes one of us.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I am, but you know what I'm feeling? I'm feeling the juice. Hopefully, y'all make it to the fantasy championships next week, and we'll talk to you then.
See you later.
See you later.